Many of us love investing or talking about investments and what's the best investment you can make. Would you say Bitcoin? It goes up and down, not really something that you can depend on. What about stocks and bonds? Stocks and bonds, they're a little bit too hard to pick. Mutual funds, index funds are a little bit better, but take a long time to develop over time. But stop the show. I know of a good investment that you can do. Real estate. Yay! That's right, real estate. It's a great investment. And we all know, buy you some land, get you some property, put some folks in there, they'll pay the mortgage or pay it off, and then you're rich. You just sit back and money comes out of the sky. Circus music? Guys, we're listening to circus music in the background right now because that is what Chicago is. Don't worry, we'll get back to the real estate. Mayor Brandon Johnson is literally a clown, and he has made this whole city into a circus. Now, we all know about all of the other things, the spot shotter, the crime, gunshots! But the migrant crisis is really where you see the clown behavior. Trust me, let's talk about this. Chicago already had a squatting problem. That's before any of this stuff was coming about. Keep the circus music on. That means, remember, you bought that home, that real estate property that you wanted to somehow rent out? Well, yeah, if you live in another state or you live down the street, you can go to your own property and then, oh yeah, somebody is living in that property and you can't get them out of that property. Don't believe me? Play that clip.
It can be a fairly big problem, squatters, and some area realtors say the problem is only getting worse.
It's a nuisance that grows with the housing market. So what can you do about this? Dane Placco spoke to a victim of squatting.
Real estate agents say that squatters and scammers are once again becoming a significant problem across the Chicago area, which is exactly what happened to this property here in Longwood Manor.
They flipped over the sign on the Coldwell Banker sign that says sold, and then they changed the locks. They installed a Ring doorbell.
Real estate agent Erin McDuffie says she was shocked on Friday when she found a family living in this vacant home she'd been trying to sell for months, yelling at her.
This is our property. Get off of our property.
They were ordering you off the property.
They was ordering us off the property.
They put a screwdriver here and they open it.
The owner of the home, Bill Adrianos, called police and rushed to the scene, but was told by officers the squatting family told them they were the victims of a scam.
The police, they refuse to do anything about it. They refuse to do anything because they say these people, they say they have a lease, they rented from the landlord, this is a civil matter, we can't do nothing about it.
Eventually, the officers were able to talk the squatters into leaving peacefully. But realtors say once a squatter is in a home, it can take months to kick them out through the courts. Is this happening a lot lately?
It is. It is something, unfortunately, that happens.
Realtor Jameer Walton says fake landlords and squatters have increasingly been using open houses and real estate listings.
Check out the lockbox.
Another agent found this when he recently entered a house he was selling.
Look what we got. Somebody trying to move in.
Walton says the people signing leases should always make sure the person that claims to own the property actually does.
But you can also go on the the Cook County property tax site. You can look on there in the Cook County Recorder of Deeds just to be able to make sure the name on the lease matches the city record.
Yeah, that's a circus. But to be fair, it happens everywhere in the country, we can say. Right? Well, here's something that you just don't know. Chicago just closed down 4 migrant shelters. Play the clip.
The city of Chicago has closed 4 temporary migrant shelters, saying the individuals have been moved to other shelters. The sites were in North Park, Lakeview, North Lawndale, and downtown. City officials say the closings will equal to about $19 million in savings over the course of a year. That includes the cost of the leases, staffing, food, and laundry services. At this time, there are no plans to reopen the sites as the population being housed in city migrant shelters have been continuously decreasing since the start of this year.
Now, if they close down 4 migrant shelters to save money, we would have to logically assume that some of these people are going to be displaced. It just makes sense. If they're closing them down, they're trying to save money. Does that mean they're moving them to a larger place? That's what their mouth's saying, but we don't really believe that, right? That means some of these migrants are gonna be out on the streets and looking for resources. Kiana Belcher of Dolan, Illinois, which is right next to Chicago, complained about this in a board meeting. Listen to this.
Good evening, everyone. As everyone knows and has seen what's going on with migrants coming to different communities and kind of like taking over in so many words. Right now, I just feel that the village of Dalton, we don't have the resources for the migrants, we don't have the locations, and we definitely don't have the public safety as reference to police to man type of individuals that may come in, not to stereotype anyone, but individuals that may come in and we can't control the narrative or the situation. With the unscheduled buses, as other South suburban communities have done, they were giving the buses fines if they were dropping them off or making them leave. Now, I don't know, and I guess that's why it's for discussion, because we would have to look into how are they fined, what the fine is, and if a bus does come to drop off, do a drop off, how do we regulate them leaving with just by our ordinances. So it has been it's through a lot of different communities. We just don't have the resources. I know a lot of people, they need homes, they need shelter, they need things that some of us need also. Yeah. But we don't have the resources as a community right now, especially with our financial situation also. They'll put that burden on the community. So if we can just start implementing some type of regulations to stop the buses, then we can start putting in place so we don't have more squatters than we already have in those type of issues.
Let's get back to the clown shit that we're about to talk about right now. So here's the concern from Republicans. And when I first heard this about a week ago, I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be the case, but I didn't really say anything. But great minds think alike. Listen to what this man is going to say about the possible problems that are going to happen.
And this is actually a similar thing we're going to talk about now. It's a nightmare scenario because one handyman turned squatter hunter is warning that migrants may soon catch on to squatters' rights in blue cities. So for those at home who are wondering what squatters' rights mean, dictionary.com says it's, quote, a claim to real property that may be granted to a person who has openly possessed and continuously occupied it without legal authority for a prescribed period of years. Joining us now, United Handyman Association and SquatterHunters.com founder, Flash Shelton. Flash, it's great to have you on the program. And this is a really scary prospect that essentially people who are breaking the law have laws that protect them. What kind of world are we living in here?
Yeah, it's crazy. And, you know, I think it's important to say that regardless of where you sit politically or morally, this is affecting all of us.
Yeah, I mean, on that note, talk to us about how you see change coming. What are policies, the number one policy that you see that could change to help sort of ease the burden of these squatter rights, if you will?
I think that, you know, the most important thing is that we just need to criminalize squatting in residential maintained properties. The laws originally were undesignated land by government, and it's been ignored and kind of interpreted in a different way. I think if we criminalize, you know, no squatting in residential maintained properties, that's going to solve a lot of these issues, and send it to criminal court and let law enforcement act.
Why should I say I'm a property owner and squatters come into my property? I've got to take this to court. I've got to get a lawyer. It's a very long fight when you're dealing with a situation like this. It's costly, it's time consuming, it's stressful. Why should the good citizen that is living in the country and doing what they're supposed to do, why should they even have to deal with this at all?
You know, and the truth is they shouldn't. It's just there's no common sense in it at all. You should have more rights. Unfortunately, the homeowner and the landlord is not presumed the residence, and that's what causes this. So because a tenant is always presumed the resident, that's why they have more rights.
You guessed it. You African-American homeowners or potential homeowners, you want to buy a property in Chicago right now? New York City right now? Any of these sanctuary cities right now? Yeah, it's a good investment, right? Better think again, because now migrants are understanding that, hey, if I occupy this vacant house, I don't have to leave there. That's correct. They can break the law and still stay. Give them a round of applause. I'm telling you, clown stuff everywhere. That's right. You're still gonna be probably paying the mortgage and you can't get them the hell out of the house. What does this mean for people who want to buy, rent? Not only, like I said, there are squatting scams going on, all of that, right? People are getting scammed out of their money. Throw in the migrants that are looking for housing in the Chicagoland area, and then you get a boom, explosion full. That's exactly what you're probably gonna get. Excuse my language. But this is all when you have no good leadership. Poor leadership after poor leadership with no accountability, you get exactly this. And unfortunately, it's sad, especially for people who really want to spend their hard-earned money on real estate. Now let's kind of go back to this whole idea of dilapidated housing in Chicago. Now I hope I, pronounced that right, because I'm not that educated. But there was some dilapidated housing that needed to be fixed up in the Black community. The Black community has been asking for this property back to be returned back to the community. But here's what they did with that housing.
Now, the city of Chicago has been scrambling to really find places for them to go. So they're making deals with landowners. And the problem with that is that in the Black community, there's a lot of absent landowners, and they've left dilapidated properties in our neighborhoods. We have fought for years to try to get those dilapidated properties to come back into the community. And now all of a sudden, now that there's this money falling from out the sky for migrants, these landowners are now using the money to renovate to allow migrants to get in. Let me give you an example. This one landowner in South Shore has a 8-unit building, designated 8-unit building. This man was allowed by the city of Chicago to turn his 8-unit building into a bed for 69 migrants. And he's already have a history of being a slum landlord. So we're now beginning to see that they're prioritizing migrants in housing, and then also utilizing land that really should be renovated and brought back into the community for community use.
That's right. So instead of fixing it up and returning it back to the African American community, they fixed up that housing, gave funding to those who own the housing for the migrants. Right, and then now they're kicking the migrants out of those shelters to go and look for, you guessed it, vacant homes so they can squat. It just makes no goddamn sense. But hey, that's what's going on right now in America, guys. So I'm gonna be over here chilling in Africa, where it actually makes sense more than dealing with that stuff. But guys, are you experiencing that? Do you own any properties that somebody comes in and just, kicks in the door and boom, like they're just having babies and all kind of stuff in your house? How do you feel about that? Leave a comment below. It's your boy O'Shea Duke Jackson, back at it again, signing out from Kanganda. We're out.